Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I'm excited for my conversation today with Kimberly Hall, who has an appreciation for spirits and a great cocktail, which was, certainly emphasized during the pandemic. The free time to explore new brands and ingredients kicked off a whole new journey for her that she didn't even see coming. After 20 years in communications, on campaigns and advocacy, a spirits business was definitely not on the top of her list. But after experiencing the challenges of being able to access and purchase Black-owned spirits brands with confidence, she started Sip and Tipple, the membership club for Black-owned spirit enthusiasts. Welcome to the show today, Kimberly.
Hi, thank you so very much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to learn about your business. I know Hera Hub, we've done some events with you over the course of what was a dark time for a lot of us stuck at home, longing for something different. So we'll get to that, but I want to share a bit of your story first before we get to your business and your career path in communications and working on campaigns. I know that you lived quite a few places. Your dad was a Marine, you told me, and so you've lived all over, but would consider yourself from the South. Is that right?
Yes, 100%. Usually if I say anything else, the first thing people say is like, well, you must be from the South. You have a very strong accent. So I can't deny it, even if I wanted to.
Can't hide it. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. Awesome. So take us down your career path, but I want to stop first on education. You did your undergrad there in Florida. What drew you to that particular school and study?
Yeah, well, for undergrad in North Florida, that's actually quite an interesting story. At the time, my dad decided to retire in Florida, which means our state of residency changed from Georgia to Florida. And of course, that then it has an immediate impact on how much college would cost. And Florida also has a great Bright Futures program for students in the state. And so that narrowed my list down. I previously always thought I would go to school in Georgia, but that kind of changed that situation. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm going to go to school in Florida, but I have no idea where I want to go. And after doing a little bit of research, I realized that going away to dance camp on college campuses in high school and sharing a bathroom with an entire floor of girls was really fun for dance camp. But when I realized that I would have to do that every day, it kind of felt a little different. And I went to a meeting, just one of, the college tours, and met with someone from the University of North Florida. And she bragged about these great new dorms that they were building, and you only had to share a bathroom with one other person. And I said, oh, great, I want to go to that school and stay in those dorms. And she said, well, honor students get priority. And I said, well, that's fine. I'll be in the honors program, but I'm going to come to this school and stay in those dorms. And so that is how I got to the University of North Florida.
I love that your choice was based on living arrangements.
Fortunately for me, it worked out really well. It was a great school. I had some amazing experiences, but I probably didn't make the choice on the best decision, but it worked out well for me, thankfully.
There you go. That's awesome. Okay, so let's get into your career path a bit. You've spent some time, I would say, in politics, right? That's a broad area. But how did you become interested initially in getting into politics?
Yeah, so that is actually another really interesting story. Of course, when I turned 18, my dad took me to register to vote, and my family has always been very vocal and active about making sure you register to vote and paid attention to politics. But, as a young kid, it was just kind of more of a peripheral, like I knew it was a thing and it was important, but I never really dug deep into it. And when I was in college in Jacksonville, one of my very best friends that I had known since high school, we're still very good friends, came into my dorm room late one night and said, you know, you have to come with me. We're going to dinner. I met the man of your dreams. We're going right now. And I got up and I went to dinner and met this guy who she was correct. She knows me very well. And I just thought he was amazing. And he was volunteering on a presidential campaign. Well, he was working on a presidential campaign and looking for volunteers. And he asked if I would come and help knock on doors. And I said, of course, because I thought he was cute. And I went home that night and thought, you know, if I'm going to be in the hot sun in Florida knocking on doors, I should at least know who I'm asking people to vote for. And so I read over the platforms for all the candidates and felt very comfortable in volunteering for that candidate. And that kind of kicked off that career. After that, I went from volunteering to eventually having paid positions on campaigns, and it just kind of went from there. So it was not intentional at all.
I love it. So let's kind of wind along your career path. You've worked on campaigns for state senate in Florida. You've done some public policy work for the chamber there in Florida in Gainesville. So you've done a lot as it relates to public service. Did any of these decisions kind of tie back to your father's public service career? I mean, did that play into any of these decisions?
Yes, I think it did. Probably, I never thought, you know, probably in the culture of the home, you know, of growing up and thinking of more than just yourself, your immediate family, and what's the big picture and where are we going as a country and how are you engaged and participating. So I was just kind of raised in that space. And at the time, I guess you don't understand that that's a great breeding ground to be very involved in politics. But now reflecting on it, 100%, it was myself, a lot of my cousins, like we're all very involved. I'm the only one that has a couple of us have worked paid on campaigns, but I still have a lot of cousins that volunteer on campaigns and all that kind of thing. And so it's just something that just runs very strong in my family, I think.
Awesome. I asked that question because my partner is 26 years in the Navy, and for his 3 children, the conversation is very much about, I don't care what you do, it just needs to be of service. So I think that's really unique and interesting that just to look at that as part of your path. Now I want to get to the point you worked for the Obama campaign as well up in Chicago. Talk about that experience a bit.
I did. It was a really great opportunity. Some of my old consultants that I had worked with on previous campaigns reached out to me. I was in Florida at that time, kind of settled and not really thinking about working on campaigns anymore. I always say that, campaigns are for young people. And I hadn't really thought about doing it. It had been a couple years since I had worked specifically on a campaign, but the opportunity came to work for the presidential campaign, and not just within the state, but to go to headquarters in Chicago and be a part of the paid media and research and polling team. And so that was something that I just couldn't turn down. And it was definitely one of the highlights of my career. And that involvement also gave me the opportunity to work inauguration in 2013. And so on the presidential inaugural committee. And that, again, was just one of those great experiences that, you just don't have that much in a lifetime. And so I really appreciated it and was so happy that I did it.
Yeah, that must have been an amazing experience for so many reasons.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. And is that what then took you to move to DC?
Yeah, well, I went back to Atlanta for a little while because by that time my parents had relocated to Georgia from Florida. And I was like, I want to go home and be close to family. My parents don't live in Florida anymore. Everyone's in Georgia. And so I was like, I'm going to Georgia. And I lived in Atlanta for about 2 years, but I never quite found my fitting there. It's very hard to explain in kind of a non-political space of why you've had a different job almost every other year because you're working on the campaign cycle. So, that looks worries a couple of employers. It looks like you're not steady if you're jumping around, but you're also kind of like, you're working on different campaigns, but at the end of the day, you're usually either like working for the party or some type of larger entity. So you kind of have a consistent employer, but it doesn't appear that way. And so after a while, I just kind of decided it would probably be best for me to move to a city that was more familiar with that type of lifestyle. Again, I was not looking to work on a campaign, but was able to come to DC and just kind of jump right in. There's so many public education, issue advocacy, think tanks, and all of those type of organizations here that appreciate the experience of a political campaign. Some of them have the pace of a political campaign, but it gives you the steady of a regular job, and you're not going to have to look for a different one in 9 months or another year and a half.
Makes sense. And you were at the Brookings Institution in Communications and Outreach, very prestigious organization. You also spent time as Communications and Partnership Manager for Poverty and Race Research Action Council. Talk a bit about your experience at those two organizations, and then let's get into your work now as a a director of communications at the Campaign Legal Center.
Yeah, Brookings was kind of my first job when I came to DC. It was really great experience, as you said, to just work at such a prestigious institution with so many amazingly smart people working on so many different issues. One of the great things about it is, Brookings has the reputation for and really stands strong on being a nonpartisan organization, and they truly just kind of look for the best solutions. And so that's one of the things that really, really drew me to them and really made me excited to kind of be part of that story and part of that. And then I was able to move on to PRAC, which works on between the Poverty and Race Research Action Council and the National Coalition for School Diversity, which is also a part of PRAC. They work on housing and school integration. And so education has always been a very important thing to me personally, to my parents, my family. And so it was a really great opportunity to really work on an issue that was so very close to home for me. And the two are just so very interconnected with where you live and where your kids can and cannot go to school. And so that for me was a very personally fulfilling opportunity. And I really enjoyed the time and the impact and projects that I was able to work on there. Was very happy there. And then my current boss just kind of found me on LinkedIn and made a very good sales pitch for me to come work at Campaign Legal Center. And I've been there for over 5 years now.
Awesome. And what does the Campaign Legal Center do?
So we are a nonprofit law firm. We work in the areas of campaign finance, redistricting, voting rights and access. And we basically work throughout the country to help improve access to the ballot and be able to participate in the democratic process. So whether that means registering to vote, casting your ballot in easily and accessible ways, or also being able to vote for the candidate of your choice because you don't live in a gerrymandered district, and also being able to make donations to political campaigns and feel like, you're able to make a donation that matters and it's not going up against $100,000 donation when you're just given $25 because you want to be a part of the process. And so really focusing on solutions that can help make the process more accessible and easy for everyone to participate.
So needed. We could talk for hours about this, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Don't get me started. Okay. I want to get to your business.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I could talk all day about this, but let's pivot over a little bit.
Yeah.
We're in the dark days of the pandemic in 2021. We're all stuck at home, locked up. How did this idea for SIP and Tipple come about?
Yeah, so I kind of started thinking about it towards the end of 2020, right? Like 2020 was, still in the very, very dark days. It was so early, still in the pandemic. And we had finally kind of passed that point of like, we're going back to the office in 2 weeks. We're going back to the office in 3 weeks. We're going back to the office in 2 weeks. Everyone had just kind of given up on that and was like, I don't know when we're coming back. And also, as we just mentioned, the work that I do is very heavy, it's very serious. And so I really, I think needed something that was a little lighter that I could find some joy in with all of the other things that were going on in the world. I've always been very interested in the spirits space. I did not actually, I'm not one of those people that like drank in college or for most of my adult life up until like my mid 30s. I wasn't really considered, I rarely drank. And as I got older, I started to have a different type of appreciation for spirits and really got to be interested in the flavors and the different cocktails. And there's just so many fun things you can do and so many types of spirits that you can incorporate that I was just very interested in. In DC, we're very fortunate that we have quite a few local distilleries. And so prior to the pandemic, my friends and I would just, on a Saturday, drive up to the local distillery and take a tour, or Uber over and just like hang out and talk to the bartenders and learn about the latest bourbon that they are about to take out of the barrels after 3 years and things like that. And so it was always kind of a part of my social life here. But when that social life ended because of COVID, it was no longer a part of my world. And so I wanted to still have that. And so during the pandemic is when I was kind of like, well, how can I still do those things or at least like learn about? And so we made a concentrated effort to support those local distilleries and purchase products from them and those type of things. To now I actually need a bar at home, whereas before my bar at home was probably pretty lacking. And so it just gave an opportunity to explore a space that I just hadn't really dug into in that way before.
I think all of our home bars grew infinitely bigger during the pandemic. My wine collection grew, certainly. Okay, so how many Black-owned spirits brands are there in the country?
Give or take, there's over 170. It just kind of depends on what's going on, but there are over 170.
Wow, that's awesome. And so let's get into the business model, how you curate, why you decide on certain brands, and talk about the membership model. And this was huge during COVID, right? And it's really continued. Yeah, we love this idea of having something show up on our doorstep. How many of us order from Amazon and we're like, it's Christmas every day on my doorstep? So talk about the decision to build this as a membership model.
So there are a couple of different motivations. One of the first motivations for the kind of membership model is that the spirits industry, unless you are a nationally distributed brand, which is hard to it is hard to become that. It takes a lot of money. It's very hard to get shelf space. And it's a very regional business, like you may find something in Florida or in Jacksonville, Florida, that you would never even see in Tampa, Florida, just because of the distribution network and how all of that works. It's very hard for smaller brands, no matter who owns them. It's very hard for smaller brands to really get that shelf space and recognition. There's a lot more appreciation for that now because we're really in the age of kind of craft distillery, craft cocktails, even breweries and things like that. So there's more awareness of it, but it doesn't necessarily make those things easy to find, right? And so when I kind of went on this journey of like, oh, I would really love to explore some Black-owned spirits, I had to research the spirits to find actual Black-owned spirits. And then there was not, at the time, there wasn't one place that I could go and purchase them. So I would have to go on this website and pay $10 in shipping fees, this website and pay $15 in shipping fees, and then kind of make a hodgepodge of what I could get. Also, because of that distribution, there are also limits as to like what's available in your state to purchase even online. And so that was kind of challenge number one. And I thought, well, this is really hard. And it should be easier. It shouldn't take this much effort to kind of experiment and try new bottles. The second thing I thought about when coming up with the membership model is that, most bottles of spirits are not cheap. And so you're spending anywhere between like $30 to $75 on a bottle that you may have never even heard of before until it popped up on your Google search for Black-owned spirit brands, and you're reading a couple of reviews, but you really don't have any idea of the flavor of it. And yes, there's a great description and tasting notes, but what does that actually mean? What is that going to feel like and taste like in my mouth, right? And so you're really just shopping blind, and you could get a bottle that you love, or you could get one that kind of collects dust on the shelf. You just don't know. And so what we do at Sip and Tipple is take away both of those challenges. One, we do all the research for you. And so we find all of the best premium Black-owned spirit brands done. You don't have to look for anything. Second, when our members join, they take our Tipple flavor profile quiz, which was developed by nationally recognized and awarded spirits professional Tracy Franklin. And when you take that quiz, it helps educate us and our members on their palate, the type of flavors that they like, what they're looking for. And all of our members are assigned a Tipple flavor profile. All of our bottles are then also assigned a Tipple flavor profile. So now, instead of shopping blind, you have an idea of like, oh, this bottle matches my Tipple flavor profile. This is probably something that I will enjoy. And we've gotten great feedback from members that they feel like the recommendations are right on point. And so that helps our members kind of shop with confidence. They don't have to do the research. It's a huge time saver, and they get exposed to all of these brands from all over the country that they would have never known of or been aware of had it not been for that. And so those were kind of the motivations and how we ended up to where we are with the business model. And then, of course, because there are so many, we try to kind of introduce them quarterly. And so every quarter we pick anywhere between 4 to 6 bottles and say, okay, this is our curation for the summer, right? And we try to theme it along with the seasons. And this is our current curation includes a lot of tequilas and vodkas and things like that because it's summer and we want some light, refreshing drinks. And then again, out of that curation, we can tell members exactly these 2 bottles match your flavor profile, and they're able to choose what bottles they would like. And then we have some members that are adventurous and say, yes, these match my flavor profile. I also want to try some that don't match my flavor profile because I'm in a mood to experiment. And so again, at least you know what you're getting. You have a better idea of how it's going to fit into your bar, how you're going to like it. And then we also provide cocktail recipes, curated cocktail recipes to help our members bring out some of those flavors that they love. And so again, not only are you getting this bottle that, you can purchase with confidence, we're also going to give you some recipes to help you figure out what to do with that bottle, right? So now you don't have to then go back and figure out like, well, let me look up, how do I make this peach martini, or how do I make this with that, or how do I make a Manhattan? Like, we provide you with suggestions on recipes. We send some of the items that you need to make those recipes to kind of give you a jump start on using your bottle so that it's not just collecting dust on your shelf.
I love it. And I would imagine this is like the perfect gifting opportunity for folks. Do you see a lot of that? Folks buying gifts, subscription gifts?
We do. We really do. So because we have different membership levels. Some of our members do 2 bottles a quarter, some do 1 a quarter. And particularly for some of our members that do 2 a quarter, depending on their consumption levels, we have had them like, I'll get all 4 boxes for the year, but I'm going to use this one as a gift for my boyfriend or my cousin or things like that. And so that's been one of those really great things to see, is that people have an opportunity to share their membership experience, which we encourage our members to do. And one of the other things that our members really love, we offer our members opportunities to host tastings. And so that's one of those times that you can really kind of like, show off your skills a little bit and what you've learned. We offer guided tastings, but then we also provide information for members to be able to host a tasting on their own. And they can share like all the things they've learned about Tipple flavor profiles and provide cocktails and spirits for tasting and things like that match their guest profiles, their profiles, tell them why they like it and things like that. And our members really appreciate that opportunity to kind of play host for the night and with the tastings.
And I love that you do events as well. I'm looking at one you had back in February, a mixology course in Black history, really highlighting folks in your industry, giving them an opportunity to share their experience with your community.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that was such a fun class. And so we made 2 cocktails that were created. One, call it red juice that was created by the drinking coach is her name. And it's kind of an ode to Juneteenth and the Black diaspora. And then we also made a cocktail in honor of Tom Bullock, who was kind of the first celebrity bartender, so to speak. He worked at a bar in St. Louis and served presidents and all type of elites, and also wrote a cocktail book, which was a very rare thing in that day and time, with the foreword from one of the early George Bush relatives. And so it's great to just be able to kind of share those fun stories. And again, our members have an opportunity not to just learn the history of some of the things that they get to enjoy, but you also have an opportunity to kind of flex your skills and learn how to make cocktails and really have a larger appreciation for what you're drinking and what you like and why.
And outside of events, I see you have a couple events on your website, and we'll share your contact information and all that good stuff here in a moment. But what's on the horizon for the business? What are you looking forward to over the next year or so?
We are looking forward to growth. So just in February, we were finally able to connect with the distribution center, and we can now ship to over 30 states, which is huge for us. We were limited to the District of Columbia for a little bit over our first year of business. And so right now we're just working as hard as we can to get the word out about Sip and Tipple beyond the DC area to other states, and just share all of the great things we've learned. And we're always on the lookout for great new brands and partnerships. And one of the things that we look forward to, and it's such a great thing about working with some of these smaller brands, is that the founders are so engaged. And so we're really able to provide our members with some unique opportunities to engage with the founders and learn directly from them for their stories and their motivations and why they put it together like in the ways that they did. We had one earlier this year with the founder of Henderson Spirits, and he has 4 spirits under his brand that are just truly amazing. And so we look forward to more opportunities to provide our members with opportunity to be able to interact with each other, but also to be able to interact with the brand owners.
Fantastic. And if folks want to learn more, they want to get in touch with you, they want to join and learn more about the brand, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yes, please visit at sipandtipple.com. That's SIPANDTIPPLE.com. And our contact information is at the bottom. And of course, membership and how to join is right there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Kimberly. I've really enjoyed getting to know you.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.